Sherry and I headed up to the boat after a really long, wet winter and even a wet spring. When we finally got to the boat, we couldn't help but notice that standing water on most of the flatter surfaces had left a lot of discoloration. First thing we did, of course, was to completely wash the hull. We scrubbed it pretty well, and we also took off the hatch boards. You can see how really faded, and they started to peel too. So we replaced the hatch boards with a temporary plywood cover, and we took the hatch boards home to refinish them. Here you can see the temporary plywood cover in place. Since the weather was beautiful, I decided to refinish the hatch boards outside in the yard. We actually ended up sanding them down to the bare wood and starting from scratch with multiple layers. In fact, we ended up using gloss urethane on all of it. There was a bit of sanding involved, but the bottom line is it only happens about once every 10 years that we refinish these hatch covers or hatch boards, so I don't mind a little extra effort. And here I'm just starting the first layer of polyurethane. Again, with 4 layers of gloss, it kind of helps to keep everything in pretty good shape for about 10 years. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting on a gloss coat. We seem to have more luck with the gloss coat. We can put a final satin on, but it turns out the satin is a little bit more prone to retaining water. And in a super moist environment like Pacific Northwest, a satin tends to create mold and lichen and stuff, especially as these hatch boards are always north facing because of how our slip is oriented. So the last thing we want to do is end up with mold growing on our hatch covers. And this is basically how we get the job done right here. Now these have been sanded. I sanded with 220 to start with, pull everything off. Then I went to I started with an 80 grit. And after the 80 grit, I went down to a 220. And the 220 made it, glass smooth. Then I wiped everything down with damp rag, get rid of all the fine particles of dust. The problem with the damp rag, of course, is it tends to raise the grain of the wood, since the wood had been sanded bare. So what I'll do is I'll do 2 quarts. This is an exterior super hard urethane. It's a Varathane product, but it lasts for many seasons. We're typically, I think we're looking probably at in excess of 5 years before you have an issue with this stuff. So 5 years is pretty good coverage, considering it's exposed, year round. Well, fairly exposed. We do have a Dodger that covers it, so it's not really getting that much sunlight. And actually, it's not getting all that much moist, water. It just gets water vapor from the air because it rains nonstop. Probably 10 months of the year here. And let's see if this, yep. You should do her, and then we'll come back a little bit later. We'll do 2 coats before I do another sanding. I'll do a sanding at 220 one more time after these 2 coats go on. Then we put the final 2 coats on and we should be done. That's looking nice. And I think we can do the same thing here. Yeah, essentially what we're looking at. We're looking at the very last piece here. And once these get dry, we don't have to dry them completely, which is kind of nice. They only have to be dried to approximately 3 hours. So this evening I'll put one more coat on, and then tomorrow we'll do 2 final coats after I sand first thing in the morning. Well, try to sand. The hardest part of all this is just the sanding. Oh, glorious sanding, as some people say. And we're almost done here. Coat number 1 is probably the least critical in the sense that it'll be covered, and then after the second coat dries, we will sand and then do 2 more coats. By the way, when we sand, because we're starting with a gloss basis, the gloss will actually become satin from sanding, and once you're done with the sanding, you're basically then free to put whatever you want on. You can go to a satin if you want, or you can remain with glossy finish. I like the gloss personally because it's easier to see which side. You know, the hatch boards look similar on both sides, so it's easy to see which side goes where. Okay, I think this does it. Cool. That should do her. Here's what it looks like now, because now we've got the, you know, it's been sanded after the first 2 coats. And here you can see how it still needs to be done. But
yeah, just set it up there.
Yeah, not bad, huh?
Watch that cardboard.
Can you see the thing as I'm brushing
Yep.
it? Ah, sweet. Anyway, so we were toying with going with flat, you know, satin versus gloss, but in the Northwest, the less surface area, which means gloss, the less possibility of getting mold and mildew and basically just retaining moisture on the surface. Even if it's coated in this urethane, it still has a tendency to promote growth over the winter especially. So what we're doing is we're going with, in the end, 4 layers of gloss on top of the original wood that we sanded down to. We noticed last time, I have to check to see how many years, but it looks like over the course of approximately 5 or 6 or even 7 years, the wood basically broke down eventually, the urethane coating. We can do epoxy, but the epoxy is not a good idea because we still have to sand it down periodically to refinish the surface. So what we're going to do is just stick with the gloss. It seems to work okay. And I'm thinking as long as I can get, you know, I'm getting probably, you know, this should give us close to 7, even maybe 8 years. As long as we can get 8 years out of this deal, I think we're okay. And yeah, again, these things live out in the elements, so nice to keep them covered. Looking real good here. Okay, I'll do the last one here. And I can't tell what you can see or not, but let's give this a coating. We'll let this stuff dry for about 6 hours, give it a second coat, and we're looking good. I guess that's my catchphrase. Sherry says I'm always going, oh, we're looking good. When I say we're looking good, by the way, I'm saying it based on, I was brought up maintaining things. I don't tend to, our cars are 20 plus years old, the boat's almost 30 years old, the house is almost 40 years old. I was brought up just, I guess, to appreciate what I have, and we tend to just fix things up, rebuild it. Our dishwasher goes out, I rebuild it. Our plumbing goes out, I rebuild it. Electrical goes out, I fix it myself. I just enjoy working on stuff. And when you're retired and have a lot of time on your hands, it's kind of fun to rebuild things and to learn new things. I'm not an expert at anything, really. Well, I am an expert at some things. I was an analyst for 40 years. I analyzed systems. Interestingly, systems basically is involved in everything. I think this is it. Let's see if I can get that last little. All right, we are in business. Now I have to let everything sit for a while, and then I'll give it the final coat. All right, so that's all we need. Covers for the stern rail on the boat.
Okay.
So basically we use these and we make the covers. And they'll roll up here, and I won't do it because I don't want to put them together, but they'll go like this, and we'll have some umbrella covers so they'll work on the boat. Once they're all sewn up, I'll just show you what they look like.
For the longest time, I've been wanting to make covers for the foam that we use on the stern rails above the stern seats. And the foam will break down over the season. So what I'm about to do is cover these foam pieces with sunbrella. We've got Velcro on both sides of the fabric, and once this is sewed, we will put these on the boat and see how it goes. By the way, I get Tourette's when I sew.
Here you can see our hatch covers, hatch boards put back in place, and they do look pretty decent. Should last, like I said, at least another 8 to 10 years. And here's a shot of our stern rail covers with the velcroed sunbrella.
Are you recording?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Hey, Bob. No, start over.
I can't. Go ahead.
Oh, my gosh. Enough with these projects. Let's go to the Pacific Ocean and fly a kite.
Sure, if you really, really want to, I'm up for it.
I do. Let's go.
Okay.